Angie Dickinson finally comes clean about Ricky Nelson at the age of 94. On September 30, 1931, Angie Dickinson was born in Colne, North Dakota, as Angeline Brown. She was raised in a modest, hard-working family during the Great Depression. She inherited a strong mind, a curiosity about the world, and a respect for language and ideas from her father, a newspaper publisher and editor. Dickinson's horizons expanded after the family moved to California, and she quickly displayed an elegance and presence that distinguished her from her contemporaries. At first, Angie Dickinson had no intention of becoming a movie star. She studied drama and business at Glendale Community College, and then Immaculate Heart College in Los Angeles. Her career started practically by accident. She entered Hollywood during a period when the studio system was still in place, when she won a contract with Columbia Pictures after competing in a beauty pageant on television in the early 1950s. Even while Dickinson was unquestionably attractive, her grounded, perceptive manner was what set her apart in the early years. Her warmth, humor, and emotional reality gave viewers the impression that she was someone they could get to know rather than merely admire from a distance. She progressed steadily from minor supporting parts to larger roles in her early cinematic work during the 1950s. She co-starred with Dean Martin and John Wayne in Howard Hawks' 1959 film Rio Bravo, which marked a significant turning point. Dickinson portrayed Feathers, a self-assured and seductive saloon singer, in a light-hearted yet powerful performance that embodied a woman who could compete with strong men without compromising her independence or femininity. She became a star as a result of the part, which also solidified her image as an actress who could successfully combine vulnerability and toughness, a quality that would later become her signature. Angie Dickinson had a successful and diverse cinema career in the 1960s. She refused to be limited to just one genre, appearing in comedies, thrillers, westerns, and tragedies. Her adaptability and willingness to take chances were demonstrated in movies like Ocean's 11 (1960), The Killers 1964, and Point Blank 1967. Her portrayal of Lee Marvin in Point Blank was especially remarkable, exhibiting psychological nuance and emotional reserve that mirrored the shifting tone of American film. Dickinson handled this change well, demonstrating that she could succeed in both the gritty, more introspective movies of the late 1960s and the slick studio productions of the 1950s. In addition to her successful cinema career, Angie Dickinson established herself as a major figure on television, where she would create history. She became the first female police officer to star in a popular television drama series in 1974, when she starred in Policewoman. Dickinson's portrayal of Sergeant Suzanne Pepper Anderson was revolutionary during a period when female characters were frequently cast in supporting or decorative roles. She presented a lady who was competent, capable, and brave, yet emotionally human, by portraying the role with authority, intelligence, and empathy. The show was a huge success and had a long-lasting cultural influence, paving the way for women in television storytelling and influencing upcoming generations of female-led crime dramas. As the years went by, Angie Dickinson picked her parts more carefully. She starred in well-known movies like Dressed to Kill 1980, which exposed her to a new audience and confirmed her fearless acting style. Dickinson continued to be regarded and liked for her talent as well as her honesty and genuineness, even as Hollywood evolved and roles for women of her generation became less common. She never depended on nostalgia alone. Rather, she let her body of work do the talking. She had advanced in her job to the point where she didn't need to show anything by the early 1990s. But by boldly redefining herself in daring, frequently disturbing roles, she kept surprising audiences. She gave one of her most terrifying performances as the vicious militant sister of Senator Tony Krutzer, played with cold authority by Robert O5 Loya in ABC's controversial miniseries Wild Palms, 1993, which was produced by Oliver Stone. She was able to embrace something darker, more political, and profoundly uncomfortable in the part, shedding any residual glamour linked with her previous on-screen persona. Her image as an actress who isn't scared to take risks was further cemented by the emotional intensity and moral ambiguity she brought to Wild Palms, which persisted long after the credits had rolled. She did even another drastic detour that year when she co-starred with Uma Thurman in Gus Van Seven's Cowgirls Get the Blues, playing a vicious Montana spa proprietor. Her performance was notable for its angular edges and unrepentant aggression in a movie that is noted for its quirky tone and unconventional sensibilities. Her confident portrayal of harshness, entitlement, and power made the character both intriguing and unsettling. At a time in her career when many of her peers were playing it safe, she once again showed her willingness to defy audience expectations and take artistic risks by fully embracing the role's excesses rather than softening it. Her independence was as stunning off-screen. She gained notoriety in November of that year when she unexpectedly left the set of a proposed "The purpose of this television program is to honor her work." She declined to participate in the production because she believed it misrepresented her or reduced her life to sentimental spectacle. The incident came to represent her fierce self-respect and her refusal to let Hollywood or television dictate how her story was told. She continued to advance in her career with a string of well-known and diametrically opposed parts into the mid-1990s. She was chosen by director Sidney Pollack in 1995 to play Greg Kinnear's tough prospective mother-in-law in the romantic comedy Sabrina, which starred Harrison Ford and was a contemporary adaptation of Billy Wilder's cherished classic. She added refinement and bite to the role, with flawless timing and subtle command, demonstrating once more her ability to turn even a minor character into something unforgettable. In the same year, she played the sharp-tongued mother of Rick Aiello and Robert Trucchini in the national parody comedy The Dawn's Analyst, and Burt Reynolds' wife in the psychological thriller The Maddening, which gave the plot emotional weight and intensity. She demonstrated her incredible versatility and range, transitioning between drama and broad humor with ease and a confidence derived from decades of experience. On HBO's The Larry Sanders Show in 1997, she charmed viewers with a cunning, self-aware turn. She reconnected with Riptor's Artie in the episode appropriately titled Artie and Angie and Hank and Hercules, playing an old flame whose alluring spark continued to burn brightly. Combining humor, nostalgia, and evident chemistry, the performance was both lighthearted and moving. It was another reminder that her on-screen persona, whether ominous, humorous, or seductive, remained as captivating as ever, solidifying her reputation as a genuine Hollywood original who attracted attention well into the later stages of her career. Dickinson's private life developed with the same blend of glitz, nuance, and silent fortitude that characterized her public presence. She married Gene Dickinson in 1952. Dickinson was a former collegiate football star who entered the rapidly expanding field of electronics after leaving sports. The relationship appeared to offer stability and traditional bliss at the time. However, the realities of two aspirational lives eventually caused them to diverge. The couple's separation in 1956, 4 years prior to their official marriage, ending in 1960, indicated the emotional distance that had already developed. In a time when women in the public eye frequently faced pressure to remake themselves following marriage change, Dickinson made the decision to maintain her married name after the divorce, despite the marriage ending. This choice reflected both personal identity and professional continuity. The scope of Dickinson's universe grew significantly outside of Hollywood during these years. O.D. 944. The prominent economist John Kenneth Galbraith and his wife Catherine Galbraith became close and intellectually interesting companions. Through their friendship, Dickinson was exposed to discussions and experiences outside of the sound stages and movie sets of her work, opening doors to a broader cultural and political realm. She made many trips, while John Kenneth Galbraith was the U.S. ambassador to India, and her contacts with the Galbraiths had a lasting impression. These observations and insights were later eloquently documented in Galbraith's memoirs, Ambassador's Journal, and A Life in Our Times, where Dickinson is shown not just as a famous friend, but also as an inquisitive, involved figure in the field of international relations and diplomacy. In 1965, Dickinson married acclaimed composer Burt Bacharach, one of the most well-known and significant musical talents of his generation, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Two exceptionally brilliant individuals, each at the top of their respective areas, came together through their union. Their 16-year marriage was influenced by their mutual love of art, their professional obligations, and the stresses that come with being in the spotlight. The relationship became increasingly complex with time, and in the final years of their marriage, they went through a period of separation, during which they each dated other individuals. Nevertheless, their relationship lasted longer than many Hollywood unions, demonstrating a strong, if flawed, bond. Dickinson and Bacharach received their daughter Nikki on July 12, 1966, and she would have a significant impact on both parents' lives. Nikki was autistic, and her difficulties caused her considerable distress and great worry, especially during a period when there was much less knowledge and assistance for autism than there is now. Dickinson's difficulties persisted into adulthood, and one of the most agonizing periods of her life was her terrible suicide on January 4, 2007, which left a lasting impact on her later years. The tragedy served as a reminder that even the most radiant public personas can conceal personal pain. In 2023, Burt Bacharach himself passed away, bringing an end to a shared past that, in spite of its challenges, continued to be a vital aspect of Dickinson's life. Angie Dickinson, who is 94 years old, speaks with a clarity that comes only with age. Hollywood's glitz has long since vanished from the past, leaving only unvarnished, unprotected, and profoundly human honesty. When she eventually talks about Ricky Nelson, it's with compassion, empathy, and a knowledge honed by decades of introspection rather than scandal or regret. People always wanted to turn everything into a romance, Angie says softly. However, Ricky and I had a deeper and more significant relationship than that. Both Dickinson and Nelson were going through rather different phases of celebrity when they met in the early 1960s. Angie was already a well-known actress who was respected for both her brilliance and attractiveness. Ricky, on the other hand, was America's golden boy, the teenage darling whose voice and flawless grin typified a generation. She remembers how much they loved him. And when you're so young, that kind of adulation can be a prison. They frequently discussed their age gap, but Angie maintains that experience, not age, was the true dividing factor. Ricky had been well known since he was little. I don't think anyone realized how much that depleted him. He was never truly given the opportunity to find himself in the presence of others. She says Nelson is far more introspective than his public demeanor implied, thoughtful and shy. He was kind, almost archaic. However, there was a sense of melancholy and isolation. I immediately noticed it. Dickinson claimed that Ricky found it difficult to balance his desire to develop as a man and an artist with the demands made of him. Instead of merely being yelled at, he wanted to be taken seriously. Angie rejects the notion that their relationship was motivated by Hollywood gamesmanship or notoriety. In a society that didn't slow down for anyone, there were only two people conversing, laughing, and attempting to understand one another without any motive or manipulation. I think I might have been someone he could talk to honestly, she says after pausing. As time went on, their lives inevitably took different turns. Angie, however, never forgot him or what he stood for. The words "Ricky was a warning," she says quietly. You might be frozen in time by fame. If you're not careful, it can prevent you from developing. She wasn't prepared for how much Nelson's untimely death in 1985 affected her. He never had the opportunity to live the life he desired. Therefore, it seemed incomplete. That still tears my heart. She acknowledges that she frequently pondered what he may have become if he had been given the opportunity to mature, change, and get away from the shadow of his own mythology. At 94, Angie Dickinson speaks with empathy rather than resentment. Ricky wasn't weak. He was perceptive. Furthermore, In a society that prioritizes appearance over reality, sensitivity can be harmful. She gives a sorrowful smile. I want people to remember him for both his skill and the person who made him famous. The myths have been erased by time, leaving just meaning and remembrance. And Angie Dickinson doesn't change history by finally speaking her truth. She gives it a human face.